Clancy, my dear.
Yes, Captain.
An echoing voice that had rung between the verses of the village's angelic chimes continued to prey on Clancy's paranoia, a feeling only intensified with Lloyd now exploring the village. This feeling was only further escalated by not knowing the consequences that would await them should something go wrong. His former Captain Nauticon would often tell those who wronged him and his diverse crew that
Actions have consequence.
a warning given before those who received it experienced the brutality of the Jinn captain. Clancy had since made it his top priority to never step out of line, to keep his head down and to work hard with Moppy to keep everyone around him happy, yet had been forever haunted with the tainted perception of what happened to those who would do the opposite. Lloyd had been gone for just over an hour now, an hour made all the more unnerving by the endless calls reaching out to the hyper-vigilant serpent, yet what shook Clancy to his core more so than anything else was the voice itself, so much that he missed the context of the whispers entirely. He knew well and clear who was calling out to him. They just so happened to be one of the few faces he had come all this way to find, and was the only person in his lifetime to ever refer to Clancy as dear boy. As he struggled to balance out his thoughts and feelings of confusion, paranoia, and excitement, he dug into his vest once again to inspect the frail and folded piece of paper that continued to plague his thoughts. Much to his dismay, his eyes did not deceive him. The writings on the crumpled sheet correlated to the newfound voice that filled the brief moments of silence in the ways the serpent thought impossible. He couldn't make sense of what he was seeing, but he knew his journey up the treacherous Wailing Alps was not going to be a journey in vain, yet he also knew he wasn't going to achieve anything by simply sitting idle waiting for Lloyd's return. Despite his faith in Lloyd and dedication to his companion's plan, Clancy grew eager to go out on his own and find what it is he sought out so dearly. In true Clancy fashion, he looked down to his trusty peg leg and pondered the question he was too uncertain to answer on his own.
What do you think Clancy should do, Peggy?
He queried.
Should we wait for Master Lloyd, or should we go on a little scavenger hunt on our own? I want to find my friends all on my own and make the old crew proud, but I don't think that Clancy's strong enough to go all out on his lonesome.
As his doubts and insecurities began to get the best of him, Clancy was quick to conjure up a smile and see the light at the end of the ever-expanding tunnel.
You're right, Peggy, he exclaimed. Clancy will have some of that tea and see how I feel then. A good beverage always helps Clancy think much better. I can always count on you to help, Peggy. That's why you're Clancy's favorite.
The ever so slightly comforted serpent picked up the brew brought to him by Yana, sipping it slowly and cautiously, opting not to spill and waste such a divine brew. Left with an empty cup and a warm belly, Clancy briefly closed his eyes and cleared his head, forming his next actions ever so carefully. He is here, my master. The Green Ninja, leader of the legendary ninja of Ninjago that graced your presence way back when. I escorted him to his accommodation just as you asked. The ceremony is in preparation and will be ready for commencement come nightfall tomorrow. But he wasn't alone. Alongside him walked a serpentine, one of bright green scales, and a mumbled manner of speech. I believe he's the one you've been looking for, the one your entrusted guards have spoken of. He has been accommodated alongside young Garmadon for the time being. How do you wish to proceed, my gracious king?
What wish is yours to keep?
Clancy's eyes shot open as he lunged forward from the ice-carved bed. He wasn't sure if it was Yana's brew or simply his recollection of the moment, but he had just relived his recruitment into Nauticon's crew, as if it had just played out in front of him, as clear and vivid as the moment itself. Clancy took a moment to come to his senses and decide his next course of action. He clenched his fist and looked down to Peggy for a seal of approval.
My apologies, Master Lloyd,
he faintly whispered.
Clancy knows what he needs to do.
The serpentine quietly and cautiously left his quarters, cautiously monitoring his surroundings for guards and other forms of security, yet he quickly realized he was at an immediate disadvantage, as his less than adequate vision did not do him any favors in a near pitch black setting. Apart from a few dimly lit torches scattered across the village habitats, the only source of light faintly illuminated from the opaque icy catwalks. As he began to make his way out into the village, the whispers that had brought him out of his hut grew louder and more prominent. Were these whispers falling upon deaf ears across the rest of the village? Or was Clancy conjuring up voices from the past to keep himself motivated? Not even he was sure at this point, but he knew the voice and it was one he had placed ample trust in over the years, meaning his march forward would be a relentless one. What he was not prepared for was for the voice to begin acting as a guide through the darkened village, a guide that was leading him somewhere close by. Closer, Clancy, my dear boy, follow my voice. Clancy continued to follow the ghost-like presence. After detouring through the majority of the village, the serpent happened upon a staircase that led to a dark, decrepit basement-like area, filled with artifacts and furniture. Clancy cautiously made his way around any and all obstacles on his way, determined to not break anything that may have spelled his and Lloyd's doom. The whispers grew louder and louder as Clancy made his way across the room, increasing both his paranoia and chances of unintentionally breaking something nearby. After making his way through what felt like an endless maze of a room, Clancy arrived at a small wooden door at the far end of the basement. There, the whispers stopped altogether. Silence filled the entirety of the room, prompting Clancy's paranoia and anxiety to skyrocket once again. He couldn't shake the feeling that what he had come so far in search of lay just beyond the withering door. Clancy clenched his fist once again, shared a nervous yet determined glance with Peggy, and pushed the door open. What laid in front of him was nothing he hadn't seen 1,000 times scattered across the Misfortune's Keep years prior. Gold, trinkets, gems, artifacts of varied ages. It resonated a sense of comfort for the homesick serpent, yet upon closer inspection, one particular artifact stood out above all the others, one that made the serpent's stomach drop and brought him to his knees. His suspicion had all just been confirmed. He knew why he was guided here. Before him laid a grazed and damaged teapot, one with a dented handle and a crooked spout, one that imprisoned his mighty captain, the teapot of Tyran. And based on first looks, Clancy believed it had been used once more. He believed that his former Captain Nauticon had been set free, and now went by a new alias, the Wishmaster. Yet in the midst of his sheer disbelief over what laid in front of him, the dumbfounded serpent felt the muzzle of an all too familiar musket greet the back of his head.